Hashem says to Moshe and the Akshes Lake Paro, initially, before the Malchus started. He's foretelling him, I'm going to harden his heart. So Rashi himself immediately explains, although Hashem did not harden Paro's heart till the sixth Makkah, and the Akshay Paro is going on the future, not now, not immediate. For the first five, Hashem did not harden his heart. And the Akshay is going from the sixth onward. According to the other Rishonim, now, the Rambam explains that literally on the Akshay Lake Paro, it means the last six Makkos, Paro had no Bechira. He had no choice. So he asks, so why is he held culpable for doing the wrong thing? Because Bechira is a privilege, and that he had no Bechira was an onish. The Bechira was taken away from him because the first five he chose, where he could have seen it and could have chosen correctly, he chose to turn his back on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, the punishment was that you no longer have Bechira. Therefore, he's held accountable for the last six as if he did have Bechira. That's the Rambam. The Rambam learns it's an onish. It's a punishment. Other Rishonim learn, no. And the Akshes Lake Paro means, when it says Hashem Hikshes Lake Paro, it means that humanly, it was impossible to be able to deal with the pressure and the mental anguish that he experienced. How do you survive it? And the Akshes Lake Paro means I give him the inner strength to be able to be in the position to be able to have Bechira. I'm giving him that fortitude that he should be able to have Bechira. That's the way the other Rishonim learn. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu never took away his Bechira. He always had Bechira. That's the way the other Rishonim learn. But Rambam learns on the Akshes Lake Par means he no longer had Bechira. According to Rashi, the way the Sifcham learns, another pshat. That what does it mean? Hashem hardened his heart. That he says that since HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that when Paro will let them out, it's not because it's true Bechira. It's under duress. And ultimately, I'm going to punish him because it wasn't his choice to let us out. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away his Bechira to be able to increase his miracles. See, the Sifcham explains, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't have taken away his choice, what would have been? Even if he would have let us out through choice, it was under duress. And he would have deserved punishment. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have punished him, what would have been? It would have been a Chil Hashem, because what are people going to say? Here he lets them out, and he chose to let them out, so why is Hashem punishing him? So what would the takeaway be? Even when a person does the right thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes him. There's no rhyme or reason. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? That he's intransient, he's incalcitrant, he doesn't allow us to go out, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu forces him to let us out. Because even if he would have chosen, the choice wouldn't have been an authentic choice, it would have been under duress. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away his Bechira. That's the way the Sifcham learns according to Rashi. But according to the Rambam, and according to even the way Rashi learns, the first five, Hashem did not harden his heart. That was purely his own choice. And the last five, he had no choice. But factually, it says on the Akshes Lake Parsi, say it's going on the future. So I was thinking, in life, very often, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the future, and ultimately, Hashem wants to come to a certain point. Hashem gives us tests initially, although he knows we're going to fail the tests. He knows we're going to fail them. But it's our choice. For instance, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was given the choice to speak to the rock or hit the rock, he chose to hit the rock. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew he was going to fail. But why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him that test? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want him to go into Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, he gave him the test of speak to the rock and don't hit the rock. So it was only because, as Taisus brings a medrash, that since Moshe Rabbeinu had to be buried opposite Baal Peor, Moshe Rabbeinu had to be buried in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. So he gave him the first test to fail, but of course it was his choice that he failed. Then ultimately, he should what? He should not go in. And the Akshis like Paro means he has choice. But I'm giving him the test now that the test he will choose to fail. So ultimately, I will take away his Bechira, which are the last 5. That's what I want to say, let's say, according to Rashi. According to Rambam, it's not so good. You have to say it's going on the future. That since ultimately he knew he would do, even when he lets us out, it's only during the rest, as a result of that it would be a Chil Hashem. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu initially gives him tests to fail, that ultimately it should not be a Chil Hashem. That's what I was thinking. Okay? Let's do the next parsha. Parsha's Bo. Vayom Hashem el Moshe. So let's understand. The last Makkah before this was Makkah's Borod, was hail. We find that when the hail originally came, the Torah makes it a point, it was Eish Mislach Kachas Bo. It was fire and water. That as the hail destroyed, the fire burnt. It burnt what was hit by the impact of the hail. When Paro, and besides the thunder, a loud sound of thunder to the point that humanly you couldn't deal with the trauma of that thunder. It totally traumatized them. And Paro says to Moshe immediately, stop it. But he says, he says, Hashem HaTzadik and Iva Mei HaRishoyim. He says, Hashem's the Tzadik and I, my people, are Rishoyim. Paro speaking like an authentic Baal Tshuva. He's openly declaring Hashem's the Tzadik. He never spoke before this way. All of a sudden now, he's saying Hashem HaTzadik and Iva Mei HaRishoyim. Why? Now, we had said, in the name of Ravina Bachio, what did Paro believe? Paro believed that nothing existed outside of the realm of physicality. And that's why the monarch of Egypt was called Paro, Ayin Peiresh. Everything is offer, is physicality. There's no such thing in the spiritual realm. That's what he believed. And that was the whole discussion, why he told them to fortify those cities, and the cities crumbled immediately. Of course, anything in the physical realm you could quantify because it's finite. And he wanted to show that Klal Yisrael is no different than all other people, not a spiritual people. And that's why when they completed Pisum and Ramses, it just crumpled. To show they cannot be quantified through their labor. And this was the whole back and forth. But nothing exists in the spiritual realm. Everything's within the laws of nature. Borod was the first miracle where there was a contradiction in nature. Fire and water coexisted. Fire and water cannot coexist in the physical realm. Cannot exist. It did. And Rashi cites Chazal. Why did they coexist? They said, Lasos Ritzon, Borenu, Nasos Sholem Beinenu. To do the will of Hashem, fire and water, though the contradictory forces, they said, we'll make peace between ourselves to do the will of Hashem. So this first time he saw a contradiction in nature. So all of a sudden he says, Hashem HaTzadik Niva Mei HaRishoyim, said, what I believed until now was wrong. Now I see Hashem HaTzadik, and I saw it wrong. Me and my people are Rishoyim. Because what we try to deny, we see as reality. Okay? What happens? After the hail destroys everything, Torah tells us he does a survey. What does the survey show? Apishtavat kusemis nukum. The flax and the spelt crop were destroyed. But the wheat and the barley crop were not destroyed. Why? So Rashi says two interpretations. Either because they were not ripened, so they were soft, so therefore they weren't destroyed. So they're able to take the impact of the hail. The other interpretation was, I failed to say it was niflos. It was miraculously they were not destroyed. From the word niflos. Now, the hail initially, Paro had understood, indicates HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a power like other powers, and he's just more powerful, but he's the all encompassing power. And everything else is just a manifestation of his will. So he had a question. That's what he believed initially. But if that is the case, why wasn't the wheat and spelt crop destroyed? Evidently, there is a deity, there's a God of the wheat and spelt, where this great power who can destroy everything cannot destroy them. So that's what immediately he's retracting. What I believed initially, what I saw, I see that's not the reality. Because if that was the reality, why was the wheat and spelt crop spared? It must have been he's not the all-encompassing, he's not the almighty, but rather he's a power. But that was only to what? To deceive him. That it should be left, that he should believe he has a security blanket. But what's coming up? What's coming down the pike? If everything would have been destroyed and the locusts would have nothing to eat, the next plague is no plague. Hashem is going to give Paro a rude awakening and show him that he's playing him like a fool. Let him believe Hashem causes miraculously that the wheat and spelt should not be destroyed. And he should believe that that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not the Almighty, but rather he's a power. He's very powerful, but he's not the all-powerful. Because what's the proof of the point of this? The spelt and the wheat were not destroyed. Afelos and Niflos. It's miraculous. Why not? You know why? Because now what's the next makkah? Arbe. Now when the Arbe comes, that he believed he had the security blanket, because wheat is the staple of life. All of a sudden now, the locusts come and they're going to devour that. So the last hope, the last shred of security, which is the wheat, even that he's going to take from you. So now in retrospect, you realize that you were a fool, that Hashem played you as a fool. That's why Hashem performed a miracle that the wheat and spelt was not destroyed and everything else was destroyed. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened his heart, every plague, he hardened his heart. I mean, once HaKadosh Baruch Hu withdrew his free choice, his Bechira, let's say at the sixth plague, what does he have to continuously hardening his heart? He took away his Bechira. He has no Bechira. He has no free choice. But every plague from the sixth onward, every time, again, he hardened his heart. What do we need a new re-hardening his heart if Hashem already withdrew his ability to make choice? That's a basic question. And what we said in the past was this. A person, it's obvious it's the hand of Hashem. It's obvious. The person says, I'm not convinced. Not convinced. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu becomes more overt, more overtly obvious. Now, he says, now I believe. I mean, you should have believed the first time. So he says, but I'm not convinced. So when Hashem ups the ante, now I'm convinced. Every miracle, every plague that took place, it was an advancement of more obviousness of Hashem's presence. So when it says he took away his choice, at that level, he took away his choice. You understand? After the fifth plague, every plague was more advanced than the previous. So if that's the case, why don't you see the hand of Hashem and make a choice? The answer is, at this level, Hashem took away your Bechira, you can't make that choice. The next plague comes again. It's a more obvious presence of Hashem. You don't deserve it. I withdraw your choice again. Every time there's a new makkah, it's a more advanced level of obviousness. So Hashem continuously has to remove the choice that you have no choice. That's the understanding. The borod, he gave him a chance. But what happens? After he sees the spelt and the wheat crop are spared, I made a mistake. What do you mean? You have to be out of your mind. It was a level of plague that the way the Orach Chaim explains over here by the Arba, Moshe Rabbeinu feels he's wasting his time. Because humanly, you can't survive borod. Mentally, you can't be stable after borod. And if that doesn't have, what's the point of going further? So Hashem says, to tell over in your children, your grandchildren, how I played with Egypt, with Paro. That's the point. It's not for him that's going to make a difference. But it's to magnify HaKadosh Baruch Hu, exactly how here you have the leading monarch and how you play with him and play him like a fool, as if he's a child. Yom Hashem el Moshe, Bo el Paro, Kanich Bardi es Libo, this first time, Veslev Avodov. Not only did it harden his heart, even the hearts of his Avodim, his servants. L'mat Shisi Ososai Lebekirbo. So Rashi says, so I should put Shisi, normally spread, I should place my signs in his midst. That's firstly. So I should be able to have a reason to bring more miracles. That's firstly. In addition, and also you should tell over to your children and grandchildren, as I toyed, as I played with Egypt. Firstly, they should see how I played him for a fool. And the miracles in their midst, Hashem. And then you will know I am Hashem. The objective is Hashem. You know, it's interesting. A person is as powerful as Paro. I'd mentioned by Yaldos Ivrios, the midwives, if you look at the psukim over there, it says when they were summoned, who summoned the Yaldos Ivrios? Melech Mitzrayim, the king of Egypt. It doesn't say Paro summoned them. Melech Mitzrayim called the Yaldos Ivrios Shifra and told her, when you see the woman on the birth stool, if it's a male, you should kill male. If it's a girl, let the girl live. What does it say? V'lo el Paro. They did not listen to Paro. Then he summons them and says, again, Melchizedek summons them. V'yomru el Paro, and they respond to Paro and say, Lo kenoshim ha-mitzrios ibrios. Jewish women are not like the Egyptian women. He summons them as Melchizedek, and they respond to him as Paro. You know what's going on. And then it says, not only did they not kill the males, they actually fed them and cleaned them. Because they feared Hashem. What's this continuous change? The king of Egypt calls them, they respond to Paro. Again, he summons them, Melchizedek, they say V'yomer Paro. You know what the answer is? Paro is the height of civilization. He's the closest thing to all powerful. When he summons you, you become totally negated in his presence. You become overwhelmed with fear. That's what happens. A man as powerful as Paro, the most advanced civilization. We speak about his chariot corps, his cavalry, his army. It's not to be believed. This man represents the power of the world. How are you not intimidated? So when he called them as Melchizedek, he knew exactly what power he possessed. He thought they would basically have no choice. Because if he demands that, they have no choice. The Yom Paro. They said to Paro, you may want to display that you're Melchizedek, but you're Paro. Why? We say on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mamlich Melochim V'lo HaMelucha. God coordinates the kings, but who's the king? Hashem is the king. So the only reason why you're sitting in that position is, you know why? Because Hashem put you there. So you may think you're Melech Mitzrayim, but the reason why you have the power, you only have the power as long as Hashem allows you to have the power. The moment Hashem wants to pull you from that position, you're nothing. Therefore, he summoned them as Melech Mitzrayim, but they responded as V'yomer Paro. After everything's said and done, you know something? Paro is still Paro. We're still slaves. We're still under his control. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to show you how I'm playing with him. This man was supposed to be this. He deified himself. He controls the most powerful country. I've reduced it to rubble at this point, after the Borod. But not only did I reduce the rubble, I'm going to play him as a fool. This man who's the ultimate statesman, king, I'm going to play him as a fool. He thinks he has a security blanket. He has no security blanket. I want to show you how I'm playing with him. All that his power that he has and the decisions he makes is because I'm giving that level of clarity to make those decisions. But the moment I pull it from him, he behaves like a person who what? Like he has Alzheimer's. He doesn't get it right. Vidatem kine Hashem, when you realize how I play with them, then you realize that I'm Hashem, I'm the kingmaker. That's vidatem. When you tell it over to your children, they understand that power was only a puppet because Hashem put him there. Then it's vidatem kine Hashem. Then that confirms that I am Hashem, that he's there only because I put him there. That's what the pasuk is saying over here. The answer. Bow down.
The question is, if Paro wanted to destroy the potential future Redeemer and destroy the Jewish males, why did he hire Jewish midwives? If he wanted to guarantee the job would be people who would be his servants, no question, Egyptian midwives. That's the question.
It's the subjects. They would listen. So the more obvious question is, why did he start with the midwives? He should have gone straight, issue a decree. All males should be thrown into the water, should be drowned, which ultimately happened. When he saw it wasn't working with the midwives, he went to the next step. So Rechaim HaKodesh explains that initially nobody knew why they would. The whole plan was they shouldn't know why they're dying. They said, somehow the males don't survive the birth process. Of course, it says the Yokabel Chodesh Yosef. It wasn't simple. I mean, after all Yosef had done for Egypt, he saved Egypt. They would have perished in the famine. And not only didn't they perish, they had the height of civilization, they had power, they have all the wealth of the world. It's only due to Yosef. Is that the way you treat his family? It's unconscionable. Paro understood it wasn't so easy to sell even to the population, to the populace. How could we mistreat and act with such level of cruelty to this family that we owe them our existence? See, but Paro understood. It's a fifth column. He understands what the populace doesn't understand. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do it on the QT. We're going to do it this way, that there's some kind of, whatever it is, Jewish males don't survive the birth process. That's what they'll think. But when he saw that didn't work, he says, I have no choice. I have to go public. And that's when he issued the decree. He says, all males should be thrown in the water. That's the reason. That the Rechaim HaKodesh explains this, what I'm explaining. Hitler, Yamach Shmo V'Zichro, went similar. Initially, he dehumanized the Jews. He did it gradually. You think even the Germans, Yamach Shemam, you think they could just kill Jews? There was this Goebbels. They had all kinds of newsreels. First, they went, and Jews weren't permitted to be hired. And they reached a level, so respectable people who were respectable in every field, they lost their positions. They lost their wealth. They had no income. They had no livelihood. Eventually, they were displaced. They went and they couldn't afford to wash themselves, to clean themselves. They were like rags. And right away, he depicted them, they're parasites. And he compared them to vermin. And gradually, he dehumanized them. So in the eyes of the German population, they should be seen like rats. And once they're seen as rats, they're dehumanized, you could kill them. Because even the German Yamach Shmo, if they were seen as upright people who contribute to society, humanly, mentally, they couldn't do it, what Hitler wanted. Hitler had that hate, he could do anything. But in terms of population, he couldn't sell it. So he gradually dehumanized them, downgraded their status as human beings, and eventually he just destroyed them. That's the Holocaust.